The Mystery of the Missing Necklace, Chapter 9. Fatty delivers his message. The next afternoon, Fatty did not dress up as the old man, but instead put on his balloon woman's petticoats and shawl again. The others watched him down in the shed at the bottom of Fatty's garden. Bets thought she could watch him for days on end, making himself up as different people. There was no doubt at all that Fatty had a perfect gift for dressing up and acting. "I'll go and sit on the seat beside the old man," said Fatty. "He's sure to be there this afternoon, waiting for any possible messages. And you can snoop round and see if Mr. Goon is anywhere about. If he isn't, I'll take the chance of telling the old man not to appear for a few afternoons as the police are watching. That should make him scuttle away all right if he's in with the gang." "I'll come and buy another balloon from you," said Bets eagerly. "That will make it all seem real." "Oh, it'll be real enough," said Fatty. "All I hope is that Mr. Goon won't come and ask me for my license again." "He won't, if you're sitting in the middle of the village street and he thinks you have got to hunt all through your petticoats for it and make him look silly," said Larry. "He can't bear to be made to look silly. And anyway, he won't want to draw attention to himself if he is watching for any possible gang members. He won't think you are one." "Quite right," said Fatty. "Well reasoned out, Larry. Now, am I ready?" "You look simply marvelous," said Bets admiringly. "You really do. I can't think how you manage to make your face go so different, Fatty. It doesn't look a bit like you." "Oh, I practice in front of a mirror," said Fatty. "And I've got some marvelous books about it. And of course, I've got the gift, you see." "Oh, shut up, Fatty," said Larry good-humouredly. "We all know you're marvelous without you telling us." The balloon woman suddenly screwed up her face and her mouth went down at the corners in a most pathetic manner. She fished out a big red handkerchief, decidedly dirty, and began to weep most realistically. "Don't be so unkind to me," she wept, and the others roared with laughter. Fatty peeped out at them from the corner of his hanky. "A poor old woman like me," he wept. Larry looked quickly out of the window of the shed. "Quick, there's your mother, Fatty. What shall we do?" There wasn't time to do anything. Mrs. Trotwell was even then looking in at the door. She had come to speak to the children, but when she saw the old balloon woman, she was very much astonished. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. "I saw you going down the garden path the other day." Bet spoke up before Fatty could answer. "She sells lovely balloons," she said. "I want to buy one, Mrs. Trotwell." "There is absolutely no need to buy one in the garden shed," said Mrs. Trotwell. "You can buy one in the street. I don't want peddlers or tramps in the garden. I'm surprised that Buster did not bark." Buster was there, of course, sitting at the balloon woman's feet. He looked as if she was his best friend, as indeed she was, if only Mrs. Trotwell had known it. "Where's Frederick?" asked Mrs. Trotwell, looking all around for Fatty. Not far away," said Larry truthfully. Shall I go and look for him, Mrs. Trotwell?" "Oh, no. I suppose you're all waiting for him," said Mrs. Trotwell. "Well, I'm afraid this woman and her balloons must go. And please do not come into the garden again." "No, Mum," said the balloon woman. They all went out of the shed and up the path to the front gate. "That was a narrow squeak," said Larry when they were safely out in the road. "Narrow squeaks are exciting," said Pip. They made their way to the main street of the village. There, on the sunny bench, was the old man, as usual, bent over his stick, looking half asleep. "I'll go and sit down by him," said Fatty, swinging his voluminous skirts out round him as he walked. "You walk behind me now and keep a watch out for Mr. Goon. Bets can tell me if he is anywhere about when she comes to buy a balloon. You can all go and have a lemonade in that shop to begin with." The balloon woman sat down on the bench with a bunch of balloons. The old man at the end of the seat took no notice of her at all. The balloons bobbed in the wind, and passers-by looked at them with pleasure. Our mother stopped to buy one for her baby, and the four watching children giggled as they saw Fatty bend over the baby in the pram and tickle its cheek. "How does he know how to do things like that?" chuckled Larry. "I would never think of those things." "But it is those little touches that make his disguises so real," said Daisy in admiration. They went into the lemonade shop and sat down to have a drink. A man was sitting at a table nearby, lost in a big newspaper. Larry glanced at him and then gave Pip a kick under the table. Pip looked up and Larry winked at him and nodded his head slightly towards the man. The others looked, and there was old Clearoff in plain clothes, pretending to read a newspaper and keeping an eye on the bench across the road, just as they too intended to do. "Good afternoon, Mr. Goon," said Larry politely. "Having a day off?" Mr. Goon grunted bad-temperedly. "Those children again. They seem to turn up everywhere." "You having a lemonade too?" said Pip. "Have one with us, Mr. Goon. Do." Mr. Goon grunted again and returned to his newspaper. He was in plain clothes and looked rather strange. The children couldn't remember ever having seen him in anything but his rather tight-fitting uniform before. He wore flannel trousers, a cream shirt, open at the neck, and a belt that he had pulled too tight. Bets thought he didn't look like Mr. Goon at all. She finished her lemonade. "I'm going to buy a balloon," she said. "The one I bought at the fair has gone pop. Order me an ice, Pip, and I'll be back to have it soon. We are all going to have ices, aren't we?" "Where's that boy?" asked Mr. Goon as Bets got up. "Boy? What boy?" said Larry at once, pretending to be puzzled. Mr. Goon gave a snort. "That boy Frederick, Fatty you call him. You know quite well who I mean. Don't act so daft." "Oh, Fatty, he's not far off," said Larry. "Do you want to see him? I'll tell him if you like." "I don't want to see him," said Mr. Goon, "but I know he's always up to something. What's he up to now?" "Is he up to something now?" said Larry, a surprised look on his face. "How mean of him not to tell us." Bets giggled and went out. She crossed the road to where the old balloon woman sat, her skirts almost filling off half of the bench. "May I have a blue balloon, please?" she said. She bent over the bunch of balloons and whispered to Fatty. "Mr. Goon is at the lemonade shop, in plain clothes. He looks so funny. I think he's watching the old man. You'll have to wait